Hey, what's up? I'm Allie and welcome back to my channel. It is time for another recent reads episode. I have about 6 to 7 titles to talk about that I have read over the past few months, so I feel pretty confident that I can talk about these fairly quickly since I've talked about these in a decent amount of the vlogs that I've done. So some of these may be new, but some of them you may have heard before if you've been watching any of my vlogs. As always, I will have timestamps listed down below if there are any titles that you're interested in skipping to and hearing my thoughts on, so check those out if you would like. The first book I'm going to talk about is The Ex Talk, a contemporary romance about this woman who works for this radio station, and the radio station is kind of losing listeners, and in order to kind of revive their listeners, they decide to come up with some ideas, and she comes up with the idea of like this podcast where exes come together and talk about how their relationship went, like what went wrong, what went well, things like that. So her boss decides that her and her coworker will be the best people to kind of narrate or host this podcast because they have such good banter and they kind of hate each other. And the only problem is that they never actually dated, so they have to come up with kind of what happened during their fake relationship and a fake reason why they broke up, and they have to spend more time together. That's why like no one catches them off guard, or they, you know, say something that is not relevant to the other person kind of deal. So of course, as they spend more time together, you know, they realize maybe they don't actually hate each other and the name might be not so well named. So this was really cute. I listened to this in one setting. It was just a really fun read. I really loved the banter between the characters. I thought it was quite realistic. We don't really get to see a lot of the podcast. There's some bits and pieces, and it does feel very scripted, but I would expect that from a podcast. I did see some reviews saying that they didn't like that about that, but from my perspective, I would think that that would be kind of expected in a podcast format, so that didn't bother me as much. But I really liked the build up to the relationship. I thought their chemistry was really nice. There were times where I thought the main character was being a bit dense about some situations. Like he's very clearly being like, hey, I find you attractive, and she's just like, do you think he finds me attractive? And it's just like, okay, you're being a bit annoying right now. And the biggest upset to me was probably the ending with this. There was some things happening that I just felt didn't quite connect well, and it just seemed like the author was just like grasping at something to make it end. So I don't know, like I didn't totally agree with what was happening at the end, and I kind of wish it would have gone a different way. The ending was just such a letdown. But if you're looking for just something cute and fun and a quick read, I think that this is pretty good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I have seen a lot of really mixed reviews about this, so if it is something that you are considering, maybe check out a few other reviews beforehand. Next, I have 2 graphic novels. One is Pashmina, and this is I believe a middle grade, and this is about a girl who doesn't really know much about her heritage. Her mother will not tell her anything about her father. She won't tell her anything about India, where they are from, and there's some things happening in her life, and she's just kind of questioning a lot. And she comes across her mother's old things and comes across this Pashmina, and whenever she puts it on, she is transported to India, and there are like these imaginary characters there and whatnot, and it's kind of like what she expects India to be like. So it's kind of her trying to connect in some way to that heritage and slightly magical things as well, but also seeing her mother in order to learn more about her heritage, and it was just such a really well done. It's done in a way so like her normal life is black and white, but then whenever she has on the Pashmina, it's very colorful and vivid, kind of like the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. This was a really interesting story about just kind of like trying to fit in and trying to learn more about yourself, and also, you know, just the struggles that you might not understand from a child perspective at looking at how a parent has raised you. I thought this was really well done, and I do believe that it is a little bit of the author's own experience as well. If you're looking for something really quick and still quite impactful, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars and really enjoyed it. The next one you might recognize from a vlog, and I had kind of picked this up on a whim, and that is A Beautiful Darkness. Oh, this book is, look, it just like blends in here, just blended in. Really intriguing graphic novel. This might be one of my favorite graphic novels to date now. It is quite small, but there is a lot. Quite dark. I did not take in any context clues from the cover when I read this for whatever reason, but this is kind of about these small human versions who come crawling out of a young dead girl's body who has obviously like been murdered out in the middle of the woods, and it is about them leaving this body and trying to then kind of start their own civilization and survive out there in the big world. Highlight the evil that dwells beneath as pettiness, greed, and jealousy take over. The look behind the routine politeness and meaningless kindness of civilized society. You can get your hands on this because I do think this is quite an expensive graphic novel. I had a hard time getting a hold of it myself. I did get it from the library, so I would say if you can find a way to get your hands on this and give it a try, it was really interesting. The artwork is stunning, and just the overall story just really took me by surprise. It is obviously quite dark and morbid. It's gory at times, so no one is safe in this world either, so like do not like any of the characters. Not that you really will, but don't even. So I gave that a 5 out of 5 stars, and that is one of my favorite reads this year, I would say. You may have also seen this in a reading vlog that I did, but that is Elatsoe. This has been getting a lot of hype around it, and I just had to see what the hype was all about. This also has some stunning, if you can get your hands on a physical copy. I listened to it, and the audiobook is great, but I also read parts. So it also has some stunning illustrations in it. But this is about a girl who can communicate with the dead, sort of. Like she can raise the dead spirit back, and she does it with her dog, her pet dog, and I love that aspect of the story so very much. But basically her cousin has died, and he has appeared to her and basically is just like, I know who killed me, this is who killed me, help, and keep my family safe. So the police kind of shrug it off because he is indigenous and, you know, they don't care. And it looks like it could be an accident, but the whole family is like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, the things that were happening do not add up. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So she decides that she is going to go and dig around herself with the help of some other friends, and of course her dog, her paranormal dog, which I love. This was really great. It weaves together her heritage and her abilities, and also different stories and myths and legends as well. And this is a world, it is the US, where indigenous magics and knowledge have shaped the world, and they are quite known. And so there is magic within this story. There are creatures from myth and lore and whatnot, and it is a really exciting read. It's really fun. I really enjoyed it. I will say that the writing, this is a YA, but to me the writing seems very young. Biggest complaint as I was reading it is that it just felt quite young for a YA audience, and while there's nothing wrong with that, if you're going in expecting something else, something a little bit higher, you know, it just takes you a little off guard and out of the story a bit. So that was my main complaint with this. I did see some of the things that were kind of coming at the end. I was able to guess a good bit but at the end of the day, it didn't really ruin my enjoyment because a lot of this comes down to like the action that is happening, not so much the mystery, I would say, in my opinion. Picky about what I've been reading, so this was also a 4-star read. So I also read Empress of Salt and Fortune, and this is a novella. It is the first in a series. Our main character is traveling to the palace to see the new Empress of Salt and Fortune be crowned or initiated or whatever, and she stops along the way and comes across this old woman, and the old woman is kind of telling her stories about her time at the palace, and of course there's deeper meanings behind the stories that she's telling, and she's like, are you connecting the dots yet? And our main character's like, no, keep going. So you kind of have to connect the dots, but I was really impressed with how much world building was packed into such a small story, and just how well the characters were formed in such a small story. So like, you know the background and the history of this world, and you know a little bit about this world. You can kind of get an understanding of what's happening in the grand scheme of things. So I thought that the writing was really impressive in that. I did listen to this, and I think I would have benefited more from having a physical copy, just because there were some things that I wasn't super familiar with that definitely, like, as I was listening to it, I was like, hold up, and I would have to like rewind and rework it. Again, this was another really enjoyable read. I listened to this in one sitting, and I do plan on reading the sequel very soon, and I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars as well. The last book I'm going to talk about is What's Not to Love. This was one of my most anticipated releases this year, Emily and Austen. They are some of my favorite contemporary YA contemporary writers. They just seem to do it so well. They have done some of my favorites, but this follows Allison, and she is kind of like a grade A star student, and she is in line to become valedictorian? Why doesn't that sound right? Valedictorian? Anyway, she is in competition with literally everything. She's in all the same clubs and stuff as Ethan. He is her arch nemesis. They are always in competition with each other, no matter what, whether it's a class or a project or whatever, they are always in competition. They end up having to work together in order to try to get letters of recommendations to go to Harvard more time together than they normally do, and just the playful banter comes out. Things progress from there. I will say this is their last book and this one have just not been it for me. Like, this was okay, but I thought at times that their banter wasn't really banter, it was just mean, and there wasn't a whole lot of like good qualities to bring me back from that. It wasn't like a playful banter, it wasn't like a there's some tension between here banter, it was just mean. Like, we're smart and we're mean and we hate each other. So there wasn't a whole lot to come back from there for me. So when things do turn a little bit more romantically, I was just like, I'm not buying it. Like, I'm just not buying it, because there has been no good moments up to this point that have made me think that these characters would ever actually enjoy each other's company. So I had a really hard time with that. They also do things to like straight up sabotage each other, and it's not like a playful thing. It's like literally sabotaging each other and the things that they are going against, and I just like could not get behind it. I was like, this is toxic, if I do say so myself. Like, if my friend was hanging around with this guy, like, I would not be here for it. And it's interesting because her best friend is in like a toxic relationship, and she's trying to tell her best friend what to do, but I just want to be like, girl, you need to look at yourself right now. I don't know what's happening. I didn't even give a rating for this. I didn't even write it down. What did I give this? I think at the end of the day it was still enjoyable because the writing is just so addictive. It's a very easy to consume kind of writing. It's got all the punches in all the right places, and it just keeps you wanting more. It's just that the overall content of this was just kind of like, to me. Maybe it is because I'm getting further and further away from my years in high school, and like I just look back and I'm like, no, I don't think so. So I don't know. I don't know if that's it or if it's just like the past two just haven't been my thing. So I think I'm gonna give this one a 3. Like, it's okay. It's just that their relationship didn't work the way that I needed it to work. That is it for this recent reads wrap up. I already have a few towards a next episode, so hopefully that will be coming soon. Let me know if you have read any of these and what your thoughts were. If you agree, disagree with any of the things that I said, let me know. I hope that you guys have liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to see future recent reads wrap up from me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!